Yes. Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. A. Mahalakshmi. I'm very happy to give you an overview about drug designing. I sincerely thank the St. Mary's College organizing team for providing me this opportunity. Maybe I give you this lecture. If you have any doubts, you can write to my mail or you can contact me by phone. Before I start my lecture, let me present a video which talks about drug designing. One second. Yes, so here this is a workshop on drug design. It has been prepared by Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics. I'm just giving you this video just for you to understand how a drug is being designed. Okay, so here let me play the video. So here this is the drug design workshop. So here you have this drugs available, and then drug is a molecule which is being designed, and then we just understand how to design a drug for tomorrow's medicine in the world of drug designing. Okay, so scientists, who are all the scientists? Chemists, biologists, biochemists, pharmacists, medical doctor, bioinformaticians, all collaborate together, and then we get results from experimental research, and we also get results from computational analysis. When all of this being collaborated, it's the field of bioinformatics wherein we store the data. They store the data and we analyze the data and get a meaningful knowledge, and then with that knowledge we go for prediction. So continuous collaboration is very essential for drug designing. It's not a single person job. All of them should collaborate, and when they collaborate it allows design efficiency. So here drugs should act upon the causes and alleviate the symptoms, okay, of infectious diseases as well as non-infectious diseases. So infectious diseases, they have mentioned a few examples: influenza, malaria, mycosis, AIDS. And then non-infectious diseases, you have your cancer, Alzheimer's disease, hypertension, migraine. Okay, whatever diseases are there, drugs has to be given. So most of the time drug is being targeted to a protein. So what is a protein? A protein is a macromolecule which exists in a system. Okay, so here in our system we have millions of proteins, and then these millions of proteins, you can see the video. I'll go along with the video. You have millions of different proteins, and all these different proteins have thousands of different functions. Maybe they are involved in breathing, digestion, immune response, repair, vision, transport, regulation, etc. And then your protein function depends upon its amino acid composition. It's not that amino acid composition alone decides. Amino acid composition decides its shape. Then the shape, it is a particular the shape of the active site, because active site is a region which is responsible for the protein function. So depending on the shape of the active site, we should find a small molecule which is able to fit inside. The small molecules can be vitamins, oxygen, calcium, sugar, water, and lipids. Then only when the small molecule is able to bind effectively to the active site, the protein then functions properly. Someone falls ill. Why the someone falls ill? Because there is a change in the active site. Why is that active site altered? Because there is a mutation. So just because of the mutation, the protein function is altered. Either there will be too little of the protein, or either there will be too much of the protein. So here comes the need for drug designing. Okay, so here you understand we have a target protein of interest, and then what we do, we have to find out the small molecule. So we have a protein. In the protein we have to look into the protein's active site, and once we have the protein's active site, we have to design a novel small molecule. So how can we design? We have a library of small molecules. From those library of small molecules, maybe 20,000, 20,000, 20 crores, we'll be able to find the small molecule that will best fit into the active site. And then once we have found out the possibilities, the next step is we need to do an optimization. Optimization is we can optimize the shape, so that it can get an optimal fit. Okay, there are numerous bioinformatic tools which helps us to test thousands of possible shapes. Okay, once it reaches the optimal fit, it will be able to function effectively. Yes, I hope you are able to understand the basis of this drug designing. Okay. So then once it is fit, will this new molecule, small molecule, become a new drug? So we have to do numerous tests in the lab. This is done in vitro condition. And then once it is tested in the lab, it has to be taken to the clinical trials. It is in vivo. That is, we take the consent of the patients and give this small molecule based on their concern. If the small molecule is able to treat the disease and there are few undesirable side effects, and then 10 years after its design, the small molecule will become a drug. So this is a story of how a drug comes to a market. Okay, with this is a video which has been prepared by Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics. So here they mentioned that thousands of small molecules, only one is chosen, thousands of ongoing projects, on $1 billion for each project, dozens of new molecules on the market every year. Only dozen comes to the market. This is the workshop material designed by Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics. I have used it for our class. Thank you. Maybe I'll stop with this presentation. I have given the link in the PPT. If needed, you can go and use it again for your better viewing. Yes. So now I'm going to my own PPT. As I already mentioned, I have put my mail ID and phone number. If needed, you can contact me later. Okay. So this is just an overview. So here, the first lecture gives you the video link of the workshop that I showed. And then the second, this talks about the process of drug discovery. The process of drug discovery starts with finding a target. And once we have found out the target, we need to generate a hit. Hit is the small molecule among the millions of small molecules. Only a molecule will be able to bind to the target, and that is being referred as hit. And once we have found out the hit, that has to be developed as a drug. Once it is being developed as a drug, that drug is tested for safety and efficacy. Once the safety and efficacy are being tested, this is being taken to the market, wherein it is being approved by FDA for treatment, Food and Drug Administration. So here, each step in this process normally takes many years and collaboration across many scientific fields. So this is just an overview of the SBDD. What is this SBDD? Structure-based drug designing process. So here you understand there is a human genome sequencing. What is this human genome sequencing? The role of the human genome sequencing is to generate the sequences that from the human genome. Then once we know the sequence base pairs, we'll be able to understand the protein. And once we have the protein sequences, those protein sequences, that proteins can be purified also in a wet lab. That can be purified, and we can go for protein structure determination. When we go for protein structure determination, the structures can be determined using X-ray crystallography, NMR spectroscopy, and cryo-electron microscopy. All three experimental methods which are used to determine the protein three-dimensional structure. Once the structure is determined, we have the target protein structure. The next step is we have the databases of active compounds. These are the databases which contain small molecule information. So now, one hand we have the target protein structure, on the other hand we have the small molecules. So once we have the small molecules, what is the next step is, once we have the small molecules, the next step is we have to go with the predicting the active site of the protein. Once we are predicting the active site of the protein, So, students, sorry for the delay. Yes, we are just discussing about the structure-based drug design process. The structure-based drug design process, you should understand there is an active protein. Okay, so you have found out the target protein, and the target protein experimentally determined using X-ray crystallography and NMR spectroscopy and cryo-electron microscopy. These are the three methods which are used for structure determination. I'm not going to compare about those structure determination methods. What I'm trying to tell you is any of these three methods are used, and then you get the three-dimensional structure. This three-dimensional structure is available in the PDB. Imagine you don't have the three-dimensional structure for your protein, then we proceed with the homology modeling. When you go with the homology modeling, what we do is we predict the structure for our target protein using the templates already available in the PDB. And then the next step is we have the target protein. Next step is we have to find out the databases of active compounds. When you have the databases of active compounds, the next step is we have to see whether the small molecule goes and binds. Where you have to bind, we have to see in the target protein, we have to predict what is the active site or the binding site. Once you have predicted the active site or binding site, next we have to find out, we have to determine whether these small molecules are able to bind in the active site. So this step is called as docking, and it is referred to as structure-based virtual screening. And then once we have found out the top hits are those small molecules which are able to bind to the active site. Once we are able to bind the top hits, the next step is we have to take it for experimental evaluation. When it is experimentally evaluated, those molecules are referred to as lead compounds. Yes. Yes, so this gives the overall structure-based drug designing process. Okay, so here these are the interaction diagram of the drugs identified by structure-based drug designing. So here in the first A figure, it shows the interaction of the Raltitrux. Raltitrux is a drug which binds with the thymidylate synthase. In B, you can see this is the interaction of amprenavir with HIV protease. The third is isoniazid, a drug for tuberculosis. And then the fourth is your PIM1 kinase inhibitor. And then E is the epelrestat, is an aldolase reductase. So here reductase inhibitor. So here what I'm trying to tell you is all these are proteins. Your small molecules are being shown in the light green shade and the protein molecules are shown in the magenta. So here you can see the amino acid residues are shown, and then all your small molecules should interact with the protein. It's not that it interacts with the whole protein, it interacts with the active site residues. And then you can see in the diagram, small dotted lines are shown. These small dotted lines indicate the interaction. It can be hydrogen bonds. Okay, so here you can see these are the PDB codes. So here you understand these are the structures which have been taken from the PDB, and the small molecules are being docked, and then they are shown the interactions. So to start with, we know the molecules of our body. We have genomics, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics. Genomics is the entire set of genes in an organism. Transcriptomics is the entire collection of RNA in an organism. Proteomics is the entire collection of protein in a system. Metabolomics is the entire collection of metabolites in a system. So here, your genomics is a static picture, transcriptomics, proteomics, and metabolomics is a dynamic picture. So you should always understand, we talk about transcriptomics, proteomics, metabolomics with reference to time. It varies with reference to time. So here you can see these are the different kinds of proteins and their ease of filling. So here on the left hand side, you are able to see a protein EGFR. It's the epidermal growth factor receptor, and then it is mutated. And then they are able to design a drug called as Gefinitab. Gefinitab, which is being shown in light purple. This drug is able to bind to the mutated protein, and then it is able to prevent cancer. And then the middle is a protein BAM-A that is essential in certain bacteria. And then it is a potential antibiotic target. till now no drugs have been found for it. So if a small molecule is able to bind to the BAM-A, this will prevent the bacteria from multiplying, causing infection. And the third one is your TBX3. This is another protein which also, when mutated, it causes developmental defects and is associated with cancer metastasis. So here, for this molecule also, it's hard to imagine how to fill this particular gap. So here you understand, you have an active site, and then you are trying to find small molecules which is able to bind to the active site. When you are able to find small molecules which binds to active site, you are successful. In some cases, it is very successful. In certain cases, it's still an ongoing process. Okay, so then we talk about virtual screening workflow. What is this virtual screening workflow is, we have a library of molecules. From that library of molecules, we filter down. Its filtering can be structure-based virtual screening, or it can be ligand-based virtual screening. What is the structure-based virtual screening? You have your protein target, you know the active site. So based on the active site structure, you find out what is the functional group which can bind to the active site. That's called as pharmacophore modeling. And then ligand-based virtual screening is, you have your ligand-based, that is based on the ligand, you find out which are the functional groups that is potential to bind, and then use that ligand-based pharmacophore modeling to find out all those ligands which have that 3D shape, that is being called as molecular fingerprint. Either you can use your structure, if you are using a protein structure, it is called as structure-based virtual screening. If you are using your ligand structure, it is called as ligand-based virtual screening. Okay, so here this is your molecular target, and then these are the bioactive compounds. When you have the bioactive compounds, what you do is, you try to superimpose all of them and you do an alignment, trying to see what is the active functional group. So those active functional groups are referred to as pharmacophores. So then what you do, you take a natural library and then screen for those compounds which contain active functional groups. So in this case, you can see NNHO. This is the active functional group. When you are searching for natural library with NNHOR, I'll be able to narrow down those compounds which have only this functional group. So here, this is an example of a pharmacophore-based virtual screening. And then coming to your similarity-based screening. Similarity-based screening is, say for example, I have a query compound. So based on the different methods, either it can be atom-based or it can be surface-based or a volume-based, what we do, we try to search this compound against the existing compounds and find out compounds which has highest similarity. Okay, and then these are the databases which you can go and browse when the lecture is over. This is a natural product database. This is a comprehensive marine natural database which contains information about various chemical entities, and it also gives information about physicochemical and pharmacokinetic properties and biological activity, systemic taxonomic and geographical distribution of the source organisms. You can go and refer later. And then this is a natural product likeness score calculator. Say for example, I have a small molecule. I can just draw in this particular chart, and then I can ask this particular tool to find out what likeliness score it has to the existing natural products. And this is a universal natural product resource database wherein you can find out small molecules from herbal, animal, mineral, compound, and other. Okay, so once we have the small molecule, we also have the protein. The next step is docking. What is this docking? Attempting to find the best matching between the molecules. Okay, so whenever I say best matching, you should always understand both the molecules bind. When they bind, we should also see what is their orientation. The orientation should be in such a way so that the interaction is maximal. So once they have interacted, the next step is we have to look into the energy of interaction. Whenever whenever the best binding configuration, the energy will be minimum. And then we should also have to look into this resultant structural changes. So these are the three criteria which we normally look. We have to see how the molecules are bound, and when they are bound, what is their orientation, and when the orientation is there, what is their energy. The energy should be minimum. When it has a minimal energy, it indicates that docking is a favorable interaction. And then we also need to look into the structural changes brought about the interaction. Okay, as it is a drug designing workshop, I'm just telling you, in docking, we can do protein-protein docking and protein-ligand docking. As it's a drug designing workshop, we can concentrate only on protein-ligand docking. So here you can see the gray molecule is a protein and the blue molecule is a ligand. You can see the ligand is bound to the protein, And then this is an optimized ligand. Optimized ligand is trying to fit the key and the lock. So your key is your ligand molecule and lock is your protein. You're trying to do the optimization so that they best fit. So here, given two biological molecules, when we do a docking, we'll be able to answer the question whether the two molecules interact. As it's a drug designing here, we are just going to think whether the protein and the small molecule interact. Okay, if they interact, what is their orientation? And then which orientation it has a minimized energy. So these are the three questions which we need to address after docking. Okay, so when docking can be done is, here I just wanted you to note, structure-based drug designing is where you have a known protein structure, you have a known ligand, we can go with protein ligand docking. But when there are no known ligand, we have a protein structure, so you have a lock alone. So based on the lock shape, you can design a key. That is your de novo design. And then coming to your ligand-based drug designing. What is this ligand-based drug designing? I have no protein structure. So what I do, I take one or more ligands, several ligands, and then I do a pharmacophore searching. I already shown you trying to take many ligands which are functionally active and then trying to see what are all the active functional groups and then design a pharmacophore. So based on the pharmacophore, you pick up the active molecule. And then I just wanted you to mention, we cannot go for computer-assisted drug designing when you have no protein structure and no ligand. So here, for a drug designing, you require a structure. Protein structure should be there, a ligand structure should be there. If both are available, it is okay. If both are unavailable, you cannot proceed with the drug designing. Okay. So here, how docking is helpful is it's help us to understand the mechanism, how both are interacting and what are the molecular compounds. And then once we are able to do this binding, it is called as rational drug designing. What is this rational drug designing? You have a specific target protein, and in that specific target protein, you have a small molecule. So when they are able to interact, what happens is you'll be able to understand the interaction, and then we can also find out whether it can be a suitable inhibitor. Okay, so here you have a protein and here you have a binding site. You have a small molecule, you do a docking and try to see whether the small molecule binds in the binding site. And if it is bound, okay, what is its orientation? So that is being called as the pose. Based on the pose, we will be able to determine the score. Score is the binding affinity. It is similar to our marks. Students who writes well will get a higher score. Similarly, a small molecule which is able to bind effectively will be able to give a higher score. So here this binding site is the active site and the pose is the geometry of the ligand. So here geometry refers to the location, orientation and conformation. Okay, it's not just not just identifying the binding site alone. We have to look whether the ligand molecule is bound, and if it is bound, what is its location, where it is bound, and how it is oriented, and what is the conformation which is active, and what is the energy of the complex. So here in docking, normally we'll refer to a term called as virtual screening. Why we refer it as virtual screening? It's similar to a biological screening. Virtual screening, we take millions of compounds and then find out a molecule, a lead molecule from a large data set. So here you can see the small molecules are being shown in the ball and stick atom, and then the proteins are being shown as a surface model. So here you can understand how the small molecules are interacting with the protein. Yes. So here in post prediction is very important. We have to see which parts are important for binding. We'll be able to identify what are all the interacting regions of the ligand. And then once we have found out what are all the interacting regions, we can improve those functional groups. And when we improve the functional groups, we can also decide whether the interaction has improved and whether if there are any geometrical clashes that can be reduced. Okay, so virtual screening is an important tool where we'll be screening large number of millions of compounds, and then based on the score, we'll be able to narrow down. Okay, so here once we have narrowed down the small molecules, it can be taken for further experimental cases, or sometimes if it's not available, we can go for chemical synthesis. So here comes the role of a chemist who will be synthesizing those small molecules, or sometimes it can be purchased from an external company. Whatever ways it is being done, next step is we have to analyze the results using an experiment. Experimentally, we have to see whether it is working, whether it is having that inhibition role. Okay, so this is an example. This active site is being shown as aspartyl group alone is being highlighted. This is a protein. As I already mentioned, your binding site will be a cavity or a pocket. So here in this cavity or pocket, an inhibitor has been bound. This has been done using docking studies. So this is a surface representation. This is the surface representation. This is the ribbon representation. And then docking challenges, you have to identify the ligand's correct binding geometry. And then one more thing is, it's not that same ligand bind at different orientation. It's also understandable that similar ligands can bind at quite different orientation. So you should be in a position to understand which is the active orientation for the ligand to be a good drug molecule. Okay, so here we need to understand where in the protein space the ligand is binding, and then if it is binding, what is the effective orientation. And then once we have found out the effective orientation, we need to score the protein ligand complexes. Okay, so you were just concentrating on drug designing and just you explaining the protein ligand docking. So here it is a flexible ligand rigid receptor. And then when it's a flexible ligand, rigid receptor, we need to search larger space. So here you understand receptor is rigid, but your ligand is flexible. So the ligand is not fully flexible. What we do, we restrict certain regions of the ligand to be rigid, and we restrict certain regions of the ligand to be flexible. So here you can see this is your search algorithm wherein you'll be able to generate a large number of poses. Then among the poses, we then calculate, we then find out which pose is effective. So here search algorithm generates the different combinations, and then scoring function helps us to pick up which is the best pose having the good binding affinity. Okay, and then the steps of your docking is, first we need to prepare the protein structure. So you have a protein structure. First we have to remove the water molecules in the PDB structure, and then we need to add all hydrogen atoms. And then once it has been added, next step is we have to prepare the ligand. The ligand also, it's not that the entire ligand is given for docking. Flexibility is being given. The bond length and angle in ligands are held fixed. Only the torsion angles are changed. And once the torsion angles are changed, what happens is you restrict the degrees of freedom. When you give more degrees of freedom, it's very difficult for the search space. Okay, and then these are the ligand conformations. So here you understand it's only the torsion angle alone is changed. Torsion angle is the angle between the more than 3 atoms. Okay. Yes. And then originally it was a rigid body docking algorithm wherein both the protein and ligand was fixed. Now they have gone to the flexible ligand, because only when you go to the flexible ligands, at least we'll have some relativity, a real time situation. Because in real time situation, it's not both the things are rigid. Yes, and then these are the different algorithms which I use. I'm not going to talk much about it, but the packages which normally we use is Autodoc. Maybe if needed, I can post a video related to the Autodoc. In earlier faculty development program, I have given a practical session on Autodoc. If interested, you can get it from your teachers. Yes. So here after docking, it can be represented as surface representation. So here each atom sphere is given in the van der Waals radius. Okay, and then here it is your Renhoff technique, whereas your receptor is being shown as a red, and then your atom center of the ligand is being shown as white atoms. Okay, so now your surface matching is both your as a lock and key fits similarly. Your protein and ligand molecule should be able, both the surfaces should fit. So these are different various docking programs. Okay, so whatever docking programs we use, we have to follow the steps. That is, we have to get a protein molecule, and then we have to look at the molecular surface, and then once we have a molecular surface, you have to find out the active site. Once you have found out the active site, then what you have to do, you have to see whether the ligand atoms are able to match in the active site, and once they have matched, we have to find out the top scoring orientation. These are the basic steps. So here I have shown you HIV1 produces a target receptor, your active site is being shown, and then you should also understand your small molecule should bind in the active site. Yes, and then when in the scoring schemes, they use different scoring schemes. The shape scoring. Shape scoring is whether the lock and key are able to fit, whether they are compatible. And then the electrostatic scoring. What is this electrostatic scoring? Is your protein atoms, amino acids would have example. If it is having negative charges, your ligand molecule should be having positive charges. Then only it will be favorable for binding. That's what you mean by electrostatic scoring. And force field scoring is an energy based scoring. So you should always understand your complex should be having lesser energy. And then there is other docking programs. I'm not going to talk much about it. I'm just trying to tell you in docking protocols, we have three main things. It's a random start position, then we have a low resolution, then you have a high resolution. After this is being finished, if you have a clustering and prediction, it will okay. If it is not there, this will be repeated. Okay. So here and random start position, what it does is the random orientation. And then after this, then it goes for a low resolution. Low resolution, it will take into account the backbones. Okay. And then after it has been done, taken into backbones, it just considers just considers how they have been interacting. Okay. It gives, if the residues are overlapping, there will be a penalty. And then if the residue environment and residues interaction is okay, then it proceeds to the high resolution. High resolution, the explicit side chains are also taken into consideration, and it also considers the energy minimization. Okay, so now here you understand in docking, random perturbation it will be of higher energy, and then after it comes to a high resolution, the energy will be minimized. This is what is being expected. So here before each cycle, the position of one protein will be as of a higher energy. After optimization, it will be at a lower energy. That is being expected. So here you understand a protein after docking, it achieves a minimal energy compared to its original state. It is a well predicted docking position. And then the after docking is being done, we try to cluster the proteins. The clustering is based on the root mean square deviation. Okay, so then in this case, what they do is they try to take the cluster which has minimal root mean square deviation, and then those clusters which are having the minimum root square deviation are then further ranked. So in the ranking, they take into consideration all this shape and chemical complementary score, empirical scoring, force field scoring, knowledge based scoring, consensus scoring. So these are different methods. It's similar to the key that a teacher evaluates a paper. So similarly for a shape, if they are able to fit. Empirical scoring is whether they are able to geometrically fit. Force field scoring is trying to see what is the energy level. Knowledge based scoring is trying to see what are all the other ligands which can bind to or what are all the other proteins which have similar ligand. Consensus scoring is whether the same score you're able to get using different algorithms. Okay, so here when you take the shape and chemical, they also take into interaction hydrophobic, hydrogen bonding, hydrogen donating, and accepting. Okay, and then they based on that they try to find. After doing with all these interactions, the drug molecule has to be tested for the small molecule has to be tested for Lipinski's rule of 5. This poor absorption or permeation is more likely. எப்பனா வந்து molecular weight greater than 500 இருந்துச்சுன்னா, even if it is an active molecule, it cannot get inside. So your molecular weight should be less than 500 and log p value should be less than 5. If it is greater than 5, it will have poor absorption. And then your hydrogen bond donor should be less, and then your hydrogen bond acceptor should be less. All this should be, that is your it should have a good absorption. Your molecular weight should be less than 500. Lipinski's log p should be less than 5. It should be having less than 5 hydrogen bond donors. It should be having less than 10 hydrogen bond acceptors. And then you should always understand there is a structure based virtual screening. What is a structure based virtual screening is you try to predict a 3D structure and then try to see whether in that molecule, whether in that three-dimensional structure, whether in that binding site, your ligand molecule is able to fit. So here you not only consider the shape, you also consider the orientation, and then you also consider the energy. Okay, the main problem that comes into role is the rotation of conformation. So here normally what we do is in a ligand molecule, you restrict certain fragments to be flexible and all others are being kept rigid to reduce the many degrees of freedom. When you have so many degrees of freedom, it's very impossible to do the docking. And then this is the AutoDock software. Okay, so they have just given you examples. So here this is your HIV protease in complex with the cyclic sulfamide inhibitor. Okay, And this is my own work wherein beta-lactamase protein has been taken and ampicillin have been docked. So here a ampicillin molecule is being shown here, the protein molecule are being shown as the arrow mark, ribbon and sheets, and then the amino acids which are interacting are being labeled. So these are the different representations which I have published. If you are interested, I can give you that paper. You can just put it in the net. You'll be able to see the beta-lactamase protein. These are different interactions. I already mentioned about docking preparation. And then once you have prepared the protein, once you have prepared the ligand, we'll be setting up a grid. Grid is restricting the search conformational space. So here you can see this is an Autodock viewer wherein I showed you the grid as a box. And then, yes. So now I have done annealing, simulated annealing. That is, I'm just trying to run the runs for 100 times, 100 different clusters, and the cycles are 50. Okay, so here lowest, that is, we have to take the conformation which has a lowest energy. So here I've just showed you the orientation. Yes, here two different orientations are being shown. Yes, this is the original ligand conformation is shown in red, and the simulated annealing conformation is shown in the green. So here, when I give a run of 50, I get 50 different clusters, and the energy range is minus 18.66 to plus 86.28. So here you should take the conformation which has the least energy. The least energy is in the class conformation 39. Okay, similarly, when I run for 50, I have 18 different clusters. So here iteration varies. I'm not going to talk much about it. What I'm trying to tell you is the runs determines the number of clusters, and then you have to take the cluster with the least energy. So in this range, you are able to see the energy range is very high. So this cannot be used. Okay. And then this is okay. This is a Lamarckian genetic algorithm. So here you are having a range of minus 18.10, and your confirmation 7 is the most favorable one. Okay. So here I have shown you the different orientations. This helps you to understand what is an orientation. Okay. So original ligand confirmation is shown in red. Best genetic algorithm is being shown in light green. And then best Lamarckian genetic algorithm is shown in somewhat violet shade. And then best simulated annealing confirmation is shown in yellow. Okay, yes. So here once we have seen the orientation and it's able to bind, it's having a better score. Your drug, your small molecule should suit the characteristics requirements for a drug. It should bind tightly to the biological target in vivo. When a patient administers it, it should go to the target, and then when it goes to the target, it should bind in vivo. And then it should also pass through one or more physiological barriers. It should cross the cell membrane, or it should cross the blood-brain barrier. And then when it is being taken in the system, it should remain in the system for a longer time. When it remains in the system, it should not be remain ever in the system. It should be removed from the body by metabolism, excretion, or other means. So this property, absorption, distribution, metabolism, excretion, and toxicity is tested. Only if a small molecule fills these requirements, it will be again taken for drug. So here, this I given you a package of web services for predicting drug target interaction. So here this iDrug GPCR is a web server for predicting the interaction between GPCR and drug in cellular networking. This iDrug EZY is a web server for predicting interaction between enzymes and drugs. This iDrug CHL is a web server for predicting the interaction between ion channels and drugs. And then iDrug NR is a web server for predicting the interaction between nuclear receptors and drugs in cellular networking. Yes, with this, I wind up my lecture. These are the references. Thank you for this opportunity. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. Thank you.